Hello. In this video, we're going to talk about the ships of Pirate Island. And I'm basically talking about these structures right here, right? These ships have many different hiding spots that you could find in them, and there's a total of 3 of these ships. And they're not all identical to each other. They have identical features, they have some really similar features as well. Right? There are things that are similar between each of the 3 ships, and they all have their differences. Right, we're going to start by talking about this ship right here, right? This is the red ship, right? This red ship, relative to Hunter Spawn, is in the back right corner of the map. Let's start by talking about, well, notice we have a melon and a TNT, right? As for this bookshelf stack, you can sometimes find a bookshelf hiding right here. Right, this is actually a unique part of this ship, is that you can find a bookshelf hiding here. Right. Now, sometimes you literally will find flower pots inside of these holes and slots. Right, this is something you'll actually find at the other ships as well. You'll find this feature. Right. Over here, notice we have, whoops. Notice you have, on the right side of the ship, you have a bunch of random blocks, right? And this is actually something you'll find at all of the other ships, right? Is these random blocks, right? And if we head over here, right, notice how we have this bookshelf, then we have a singular block, right? A bookshelf and a furnace, right? 2 blocks, like that. You'll find stuff like that at the other ships as well. Going over here, this is the left side of the ship, we have this TNT and melons. Well, sometimes you're going to find a TNT on the right side, and sometimes even a melon hiding there as well. Because either one of those 2 blocks can be hiding here. Again, this is something you're going to see at the other ships. Sometimes you'll even find hiders hiding on literally the edge of the ship, usually flower pots hiding in this specific spot. Right, that's basically it. Right? And it turns out you can actually hide in this little door area, as you can see, underneath the ship. You can sometimes find hiders at this specific area of the ship, right here in this slot. Something that you're going to see at the other ships. Right, heading over here we have furnaces and hay bales, right? But one other thing is that you could find a bookshelf hiding in this hole right here. This is actually a unique part of this ship, is that you could find a bookshelf in this hole. Sometimes you'll even find a flower pot hiding right here. As you can see, sometimes they'll find stuff like that right here. Now we have to talk about these 2 block piles. Now it turns out that you will find this furnace stack at the other ships, right? And they're not exactly identical to each other, right? But they're really similar, right? You're going to find this specific block pile at the next ship that we go over. But instead, it's going to be a different type of blocks. It's not going to be furnaces, it's going to be something else. Right? The block pile, it's going to look really similar, but it's going to have some differences. Right? So let's talk about it. Well, notice how we have a total of 5 furnaces that we can walk along right here. So we have 5 furnaces. So as if you see 6 furnaces, obviously it's fake, right? Just something like that. So you have furnace on top of one of those 5 furnaces, like for instance, on top of this furnace, that would be fake. Right? But there should be a total of 5 furnaces that you can walk across. Another thing is that you can see how we have a melon here for some reason, and we have a single furnace right here. So if you see 2 furnaces in a row, then it's fake in this particular case. If you see 3 blocks in a row, it's fake. I guess another way you can sort of look at it is you can also see that you have a 3-block staircase of furnaces here, right? Really interesting, and don't be surprised if you see that at the other ships, right? Because it's really similar looking to the other ships. This is really it for this block pile. Heading over to the hay bales, this is actually a larger version of the hay bale piles you're going to see at the other ships. This is a larger version of the stack. You see hay bales, but in addition you have pumpkins. These pumpkins are a unique part of this ship, right? This is, I believe, I haven't done this in a while, but I believe this is the only ship that has these pumpkins over here, right? This is actually a bigger version of the hay bale stack at other ships, but you're going to see some similarities, right? Just like how you have this, these 5 furnaces right here, you're actually going to see those same exact 5 hay bales that you can walk across right here. You're going to see that same exact thing It's a very interesting connection that you can draw from that. So very interesting that you can realize that, right? So you should memorize that, right? You see a hay bale on top of any one of these hay bales that I'm walking across. For instance, on top of this hay bale, it would be fake. Right, next, if we go to the back of the hay bale stack, this is part of what makes it unique from the other hay bale stacks, right? You do actually have a hay bale on the left side, but you shouldn't have a hay bale on the right side right here. This would be a fake hay bale. Right? You might find a hay bale right here. Might see a square of hay bales like this. That would be fake. If you see a hay bale in this specific slot, that would be fake. If you see a hay bale connecting with the pumpkins, right? This is a unique part of this ship because other ships don't have pumpkins, I believe. This would be a fake hay bale if it's touching the pumpkins. As for the pumpkins, right? If you see two pumpkins in a row right here, it's fake. Two pumpkins on top of each other, then it's fake. Right? If you look at the pumpkin stack from this side, it's the common structure that we've seen in the museum. But if you look at it from the other side, it has one additional block. Like two in a row right here, right? But if you put two in a row, it's identical to what the back side of the stack looks like. It's identical to the back side. It's basically symmetrical if you look at it this way. And this would be the fake pumpkin. That's basically it for this ship. Okay, so we talked about this ship. Now we're going to head over to the next ship. Right, remember, keep in mind our location. We're in the back of the map, right? This is the back of the map, but we're heading over to the other ship, which is, we were just at the back right corner of the map. Now we're at the back left corner. But really, we're at the left side of the map. This is where our next ship is. As you can see, it is slightly different looking from the previous ship. It's a little less going on, sort of, right? Over here, we still have that same melon and TNT pile, right? Or not melons, we have the same melon and TNT block that we saw. Now, I don't know if you realize this, but this ship was a little higher up than this ship, right? This ship, or the ship that we looked at before, was a little higher up than this ship. This ship was a little lower to the ground because we actually, I don't know if you saw it, but we had two melons at the other ship, but they were higher up. Surrounded by water, I believe. Not surrounded by water, but above water. So in this particular case, for this ship, you could see three melons all together like that, right, which we couldn't see at the other ship. Notice for these bookshelves, you can't hide underneath the bookshelf stack because this ship is lower to the ground. And so you can imagine you can only really hide right next to it like that, right? So squared off, right? I like that word, squared off. Right, but a unique part of this ship is that you can actually hide over here, where you have the ability to hide at this area right here. That's a unique part of this ship, so you should be familiar with that. Right? Again, just like the red ship, because, this wool was red at the previous ship, instead it's white. Again, you see this at this ship as well. You can hide in each of these 4 spots. So you should be familiar with that. Going over here, notice you have those same exact random blocks that are placed throughout this corner of the ship. So you should be familiar with the fact that you'll find hiders here sometimes. But I would say more specifically, you could probably find a hider hiding right here. Right? I guess sometimes we'll even see hiders hide at this corner. Right? This goes for all ships as well, usually flower top. Going over here, you can't really walk in this region like you could for the other ships. The sand is blocking. But notice you still have 2 blocks here. Right? But going over to the other side of the ship, notice how we have that same TNT and melons that we saw. So again, you can see a TNT right here. Right? But also you can see a melon there instead. So if you see a melon, right, something like this, you can see a melon instead. You have the ability to see that. That's basically it. Again, you could go to the under area, I like calling it that, the under area, and you could see, even though there's a painting there, you still have the ability to become solid. So a bookshelf in that same slot, right, you'll also see that same thing with this ship. Now, remember from the previous ship, there was this hole right here that you could hide in as a bookshelf. As you can see, because this ship is lower to the ground, these bookshelves are also, right, they're no longer, you can't hide in a hole here anymore, because this ship is lower to the ground, so there's no hole here. Right? Now, I don't know if we saw this TNT block in the previous ship. I don't think we did, right? No, I don't think so. Right? But you do have a TNT here. Now, instead of hiding behind wooden planks, you hide behind sandstone if you see a hider hiding. So, something like that, usually a flower pot, That's basically it. Alright, so now we talk about the 2 block piles. Now in the previous ship, this was a furnace stack, but instead we have bookshelves here. Now it is slightly different looking. Remember from the previous ship we had a total of 5 furnaces here. We still have a total of 5 bookshelves, right? You can count a total of 5. We also had 5 furnaces, but it was a different shape. Instead, the furnace, instead of it being right here, it was 1 block to the left, right here. But instead, basically, you know, we still have 5 bookshelves, but it's a different shape from what we saw at the previous ship. That's what you need to realize, right? And so you still have 5 bookshelves, it's just a different shape. The difference is that this bookshelf is literally, it's instead of it being right here, it's right here. That's the difference. Over here, we have basically the same exact thing that we saw at the previous ship, right? You see 2 bookshelves in a row, it's fake. You see 3 blocks in a row, then it's fake. Right? Notice that same exact block is a melon block, just like we saw at the previous ship. The difference was that this was furnaces instead of bookshelves. Right? But at this particular ship, we see bookshelves instead. Going over here, we have the melon stack, not the melon stack, the hay bale stack, which you can see is significantly smaller than what we saw at the previous ship, right? Significantly smaller. Notice you have that same exact 5 hay bales that you can walk across, so that easily gives you a clue that it's probably identical to what we saw at the previous ship, right? So as you can see, it's the same 5 hay bales that you can walk across here. And on the back of the side, right, notice how, well, there is no hay bale on the left side. So if you see a hay bale on the left side, it's fake. And also if you see a hay bale on the right side, it's fake. Just like at the previous ship, you can see a hay bale in this slot right here. So something like that would be fake. Hopefully that gives you a good idea of the hay bale stack, right? That's all I'm going to talk about. And so that's basically it. So hopefully you can draw some connections with this ship to the other ship, right? Pretty nice. Okay, so now that we've talked about this ship, we have one more ship to go over. And that is the ship that is near the hunter spawn. Right? As you can see, we have this ship, if you recall. We're going to talk about how is this similar or different to the other ships. Right? So what I want you to notice here is that we still have that same melon and TNT block. But we don't have those 2 melons that were over here before. Right? Interestingly enough. Right? Now, we also have those same bookshelves that we saw at the previous ship. Right? Again, you can't hide underneath the bookshelves because this ship is, again, significantly lower to the ground than our first ship. But again, you can find bookshelves, squaring off the structure like this. Right? You can also sometimes see a bookshelf on this side right here. That's basically it. Now, notice this is not red wool, it's not white wool, but instead we have black wool. But you have those same exact 4 hiding spots you can see with the wool. So you should be familiar with those spots. Going on top of the ship, it's slightly different, right? You still have those same random blocks that are scattered all over the place. For instance, you can still find a melon hiding right here. You'd still find a hider hiding right here, right? But there's a difference in that you actually have flower pots here, right? We didn't see this at the previous ship. You actually have flower pots here, right? Now, I don't believe you see this at the previous ship, but hiders actually do have the ability to hide underneath this. If you were a flower pot, it'd be a little bit less obvious. But this is, I believe you don't see this at the previous ships. I have to check. Hiders can hide here. I don't think you can see this at the previous ships. I don't think. But as you can see, you should be familiar with that. All right. Just like at the previous ships, you have 2 blocks right here, right? In this particular case, you can actually walk through it. Right? You can walk through it. Sand is not blocking your way this time. Right? Heading over here to this side of the ship, we have TNT and melons, just like the previous ship. So again, you can find a TNT hiding right here, or a melon hiding right there. So those 2 spots you should be familiar with. I also can find hiders on the edge of the ship right here. So I guess you should be familiar with that as well. Another thing, again, underneath in this room right here, you could hide as a bookshelf, just like we've seen in the previous ships. Now over here, it is sort of similar to the first ship, where you can see a bookshelf hiding in this hole. It's not exactly a hole because you can see the bookshelf right here. But yeah, you can still sometimes see it. It's not all the time. As you can see, a hider could potentially hide here. And sometimes flower pots will hide here. Not all the time, but it happens. So behind the wood plank like that. Now we're going to talk about our 2 block piles, the furnace stack and the hay bale stack. So previously we had bookshelves here, now we're back to furnaces. And so as you can see, it's pretty clear it's pretty clear that there's a difference between this stack and the previous stack we went over, right? The bookshelves. Right? Instead of just a melon right here, we actually have some pumpkins surrounding melon. We didn't see these pumpkins at the previous ships. So that's a difference. That's a major difference that makes this ship unique to the others. It's these 2 pumpkins. Right? Now, first things first, we still have these same 5 furnaces that we saw at the previous ship. In this case, they were bookshelves, but it's the same 5 blocks that are on the side that you can walk across, right? 5 furnaces, as we've seen in the previous ships. So again, if you see 6 furnaces, for instance, like this, that would be fake. Now again, I probably forgot to mention this, but again, there's a 3-block staircase here, just like for all the other ships. Now, there's another part about the ship besides the pumpkins that makes this ship unique. Remember, for all the other ships, there was 1 furnace there, right? So I can really emphasize that there was 1 furnace there at the other ships, but now we have 2 furnaces. That's what makes it different. There actually is 2 furnaces here. So notice you see 3 furnaces in a row. Otherwise, 5 blocks in a row like that would be fake. And again, 3 furnaces in a row would mean that there's a fake. Because we do actually have 2 furnaces in a row here, and you have to know that, because this is what makes it unique from the other ships, right? All the other ships only have 1 furnace here, which is so important to memorize for your everyday life, right? You all memorize this stuff, right? Let's go. Right? Okay. Well, that's basically it for the furnaces. You see, all the block piles, all of the ships have some difference with this specific block pile, and I hope you're able to realize that. As for the hay bales, it's probably almost identical to what we had at the previous ship. It's that same small block pile. It is slightly different though, right? Notice, just like all the other 2 ships, we have these same 5 hay bales that you can walk across. But if you go to the back of the block pile, it's slightly different from the previous ship, in that you're actually 1 block lower than you were at the previous ship, right? You're 1 block lower, right? You still shouldn't have a hay bale on the left or the right side of it, right? You should never see a hay bale in either one of those 2 spots. And I didn't really mention this at the previous ship, but you could see a square of hay bales. You could see a hay bale right here, just like the previous ships, right? But that's basically it. Also, again, just like all the previous ships, you shouldn't see a hay bale in this slot. And so that's basically it for this video. We talked about all the different similarities and differences between these 3 ships, right? You should be familiar with them. And so hopefully this gives you a good explanation of the similarities and differences between them. So this is basically it for this video.